Hello and welcome back to AP Psychology. I'm Miss Lee, and in this video we're introducing the concept of motivation. This is part of Unit 7, Motivation, Emotion, Personality, and Stress. We have quite a few learning targets, so I suggest you pause as I scroll through just to make sure that you are staying on task and covering everything that you need to so that you can prepare for the exam. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and grab your notes and let's get started. Okay, so let's start out by thinking about a scenario or a time in your life that you were most motivated. Like you were so motivated, you were ready to go, you were chomping at the bit. What actually motivated you? Think about the most motivating speech you've ever heard. Some people are just amazing at being motivational speakers. Think about whether this person was on screen or in person, in a movie. What made that speech so motivational? Let's see some examples of some motivational speeches.
Will you fight? No! We will run! And we will live!
Shame on you. This could be the greatest night of our lives. But you're gonna let it be the worst.
And I guarantee a week won't go by in your life you won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of you.
Well, I'm not going home.
We've got too far!
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
A day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
I'm not saying it's gonna be easy.
You're gonna work harder than you ever worked before.
But that's fine, we'll just get tougher with it.
If a person grits his teeth and shows real determination,
failure is not an option.
That's how winning is done.
Believe me when I say we can break this army here.
And win just one for the Gipper.
But I say to you, what every warrior has known since the beginning of time,
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
If you would be free men, then you must fight to fulfill that promise. Let us cut out their living guts 1 inch at a time.
and they will know what we can do.
Let no man forget how menacing we are. We are lions.
You're like a big bear, man.
This is your time.
Seize the day.
never surrender. Victory or death.
That's the Chicago way.
Who's with me?
Clap! Clap! Don't let him die! Clap!
All right, let's fly.
And gentlemen in England, now a bed. Shall
No, my name is the Lord. When I
tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take
our Independence Day.
So if you think back to the most motivating speeches, how long did the actual impact of that speech last? Did it make for a long-term change in your life? Why or why not? So we're talking all about motivation, and motivation includes the influences that account for the initiation, direction, intensity, and persistence of behavior. Why we do what we do. Aaron Ralston was motivated to cut his arm off to free himself from a rock that had him pinned down. It is an amazing story. It is a true story. I highly recommend that you look this brief story up in your textbook. It is on page 327 in Meyer's first edition. So there are several sources of motivation, including biological factors, emotional factors, cognitive factors, and social factors. We will discuss all of them. Some concepts that you need to understand before we go any further are the differences between instincts and incentives. Instincts are innate, automatic dispositions towards responding in a particular way when confronted with a specific stimulus. So some examples would include birds building nests, salmon spawning, and the thing is that they do those things perfectly on the first try. Why? Because their behaviors are ingrained in their genetic code and they don't get a second chance. Their very survival depends on being able to do these behaviors instinctually without ever having been taught. Some problems with this theory, especially when you're talking about humans, it's not as as common with humans as with other species. Humans do have some instinctual behaviors at birth. We call them reflexes. Yet these instincts or reflexes tend to dissipate over the first few months. Most psychologists, other than evolutionary psychologists, believe that human behavior is directed by physiological and psychological forces rather than these instinctual patterns of behavior. So think about it. Do humans have instincts? What do you think? What about the maternal instinct? What about the instinct to survive? Are they truly instincts? Although we may not have instincts, we do have needs and drives. Needs include anything required to survive. So that would include food, water, shelter, things that basically bring our bodies, our physiology to this concept known as homeostasis. Drives are what's controlled in our hypothalamus. These are the motivators inside us that drive us to fulfill our needs. Both of these push us into action from the inside out. Where our needs and drives push us into action, incentives pull us in one way or another to satisfy our needs or drives. So think about it this way. If you have a need or a drive, it is something internal that's going to push you out into the world to get your needs met. An incentive is a little bit different. It's going to pull you in one way or another to satisfy those needs or drives. And the value of an incentive is influenced by both biological and cognitive factors. So let's talk about some theories of motivation. So as we're talking about this first one, the evolutionary theory, consider the basis of the evolutionary theory. Yes, what you learned in science. What are some terms that are integral to the evolutionary theory? Genetic mutation, natural selection, reproduction. These are things that at the very foundation of the evolutionary theory, when we're talking about motivation, all come into play. How do these concepts actually apply in psychology? What are our main motivators in life according to evolutionary theorists? According to these theorists, our main motivator in life is to survive so that we can spread our genes. All of our behavior derives from that main motivation. So what I want you to do right now is stop the video, just put it on pause, and take the evolutionary quiz that has been assigned to you. The next theory is called the drive reduction theory. And don't try to overcomplicate this. This is basically you doing things in order to reduce the drive that you have internally. Motivation arises from an imbalance in our homeostasis. So the imbalance creates a need. The brain responds by creating a drive. There is a body need and there's a psychological brain drive that then prompts the organism to take action. And that action is meant to satisfy or reduce the drive. So for example, you have a need such as food or water. You have a drive such as hunger or thirst, and then you have this behavior that's going to reduce the drive. So you eat or drink according to your needs and your drives. The next theory is the optimum arousal theory. Human motivation aims not to eliminate arousal, but to seek optimum levels of arousal. And we have a law here that's called the Yerkes-Dodson law. And basically that law states that we perform best when our arousal is moderate, not too high, not too low. Generally, we try to increase arousal when it's too low or we're bored. And we try to decrease our arousal when it's too high, when we're stressed out. So these are our attempts to try to rebalance something that is kind of out of whack. So let's watch an example of what optimum arousal is for some people.
Hey, this is Chase from ShotScience.com and welcome to my weekly blog. This week we're going to be talking about pregame preparation. There's a couple important things to know about pregame preparation. And the first we'll be talking about is something called arousal levels. Now, when we talk about arousal levels, we're talking about somebody's general excitability. Somebody who's jumping all over the gym is somebody who is very high on that arousal level. Somebody who's asleep, very low on that arousal level. What's important to know about pregame preparation is we want to be somewhere in between that. This is called the Yerkes-Dodson law of arousal. The Yerkes-Dodson law of arousal states that there's an inverted U relationship between arousal level and performance. So those who are on the very low end of arousal level, those who are asleep, those who look like they're absolutely not into the event, are going to perform very poorly. And so are those who are on the very high end, those who are running around the gym with adrenaline squirting out of their ears. The ones who are going to perform the best are the ones who are at the very high point of that inverted U, or right in between the low and the high end of the arousal levels. So for peak performance, where we want to be in pregame preparation is right at the top of that peak. So right in the middle of that arousal level. Now, this is kind of counter what most people probably think about pregame preparation. They want to be the intimidator, the one banging their drum as loud as they possibly can. That's actually not the best way to go about performing at your peak. You want to be right in the middle where you're focused and able to perform the task at hand. So remember, we don't want to be too high on the arousal level, and we don't want to be too low on the arousal level. We want to be right in between, focused for our pregame preparation. Now, everybody's in-between is going to be different, but make sure that you find your in-between where you perform the best, not necessarily where you have the most energy or where you're the most relaxed. You want to be focused right in the middle of that curve.
A moment to compare your optimum arousal level with that of Aaron Ralston, or compare Sheldon's level of optimum arousal to Aaron Ralston. All right, the next theory that we talk about is one that is fairly well known in our mainstream life. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What you need to understand about Maslow is that according to his theory, the needs don't have to be fulfilled 100% to move up to the next level. Basically, what his theory states is that you have to take care of your basic foundational needs first, like biological and physiological needs. And this includes basic life needs like air, food, drink, shelter, warmth, and sleep. Now, on your screen, you see that sex is included in this, but some people have a little bit of a conflict with that because they say that it's not actually necessary for the individual to survive. Then moving up the pyramid, you have safety needs like protection, security, order, laws, limits, stability. The next level up is belongingness and love needs. So family, affection, relationships, the folks that you work with. And then the next level is esteem needs. This is achievement, status, responsibility, and reputation. That last point on the pyramid is self-actualization. So if you think back to our perspectives, Maslow was one of the humanists who said that what we're really striving for as humans is to reach self-actualization. So this is personal growth and fulfillment. The theory is a little bit arbitrary. The